Yeah, can I speak to Amelia Clark, please? You are full of such shit. Game of Thrones shaped you as a woman. How does working on a TV show shape you as a woman? Were you actually giggling as you wrote that? You are such a freaking prank. Is this thing on? Welcome back to Big Mouth and fancy seeing you here in June. I very welcome my friends and especially my enemies. Come in. I tell you what, Amelia Clark is the biggest prankster you will ever meet. All of that crap, she says, official crap, she's pranking everyone. She's just so funny. She sees the whole thing as a lark. She doesn't get the popularity of this show. She thinks it's insane and she thinks it's all funny. And in a way, so do I. But enough about her. Game of Thrones, the series finale. This is my review. Welcome to it. If you enjoyed the rest of this final series, you are going to see this series finale at a really good bookmark ending. And I kind of saw it as a good bookmark ending. But then I think about it and I think what might have been in the season and I think it could have been such a climactic ending. But it wasn't. It was a bookmark ending. They wanted to end it. They wanted to do things. I mean, one of the best things they actually did in this was Arya travelling around, looking for what's beyond, what's west of Westeros. I like that. That has a little ring for it. And I think someone said it on Twitter just now. I'm not particularly interested in the prequels, although I will watch them. But a kind of an Arya spin-off, her, exploring, trying to find what's west of Westeros because nobody knows. The map stops there, which I also find fascinating because isn't it interesting? In Doctor Who, she's travelling around in the TARDIS with Clara. She's not, but, her character is, right? And it's the same thing here. Her final story is her travelling around. And it's a great way to leave characters. I liked it when they did 24 as well. Season 8 of 24, when he says goodbye to Chloe, and he's out there saving the day. And I think I like that about Smallville as well. At the end, he becomes Superman, and he's out there. Our hero exists in the Smallville universe, which is awesome. And I like that. The opening of this episode was brilliant. The tension, the tension you could have cut with a knife, and you see the character we all love. The character we didn't want to see dead. One of the things I always said from the beginning of Game of Thrones, I do not want Tyrion to die. If you don't kill Tyrion, I'll love you. And Baelish and Weiss, I love you because you didn't kill Tyrion. You didn't do something cheap and nasty just to go, oh my God, Tyrion, what the fuck, Game of Thrones? You didn't do that. Thank you so much. And I really do appreciate that because he's my favourite. What Peter Dinklage has achieved on this show is outstanding. Every actor should salute him. He has done so much for other people who have height disabilities. Just imagine that. So many people will get more jobs, with, height disabilities and stuff like that. So I think that's amazing. But Peter Dinklage didn't get this role. Well, he did. He did get this role because he was a short person. But he got the role because he's tremendous. He is a tremendous actor. He brought Tyrion to life. I just can't imagine anyone else doing it. And it was utterly amazing to see him unravel this character. I love the fact that he's now going to be the Hand of the King. But this is interesting, right? Because they really did kind of shock our expectations with this because a lot of people in their imagination saw Jon Snow as the hero of this story. And spoilers, him killing Dany makes him the hero of this story. She had to die. She just brutally murdered a whole kingdom, children, women, men, all innocent people, because it was her opinion. But she saw this thing where kind of Cersei put those people as a shield. So Cersei thinks she's never going to kill those people. She goes, oh, well, I'll take your dare. And she did it. So if anyone else ever does that, which they probably wouldn't because, they wouldn't do that because they know she doesn't give a shit. But the thing is, you could see when she was addressing the Unsullied, she was hungry for more war. And in the end, this is how dictators are born. It's interesting, before he kills her, She talks about knowing what's right. And he says a great thing. What about all the other people who know what's right? And she said something that all dictators say. They don't have a choice. We do. And he knows at that moment she's absolutely insane with power and she has to die. Now, we shouldn't have to kill anyone in life, so we should prosper. We shouldn't. But there's no other way. There's no other way. She had to be brought down. Jon asks Tyrion at the end, did I do the right thing? Jon Snow, you are a hero. You absolutely did. So, honestly, I enjoyed the finale. But as I say, they could have done different things with this final series. But you have to make decisions in the end as a writer and as a storyteller. How do you end this thing? It's difficult. I know a lot of people are angry. They're going to be angry. There's a petition. And as I say, people pay their subscription. You are entitled to be as angry or as happy with this as you want. That's the thing. And no millionaire, no blue tick, no one within the industry should have the right to criticise you. Well, everyone has the right to criticise everyone. And I know, look, Hollywood and creatives, I know you're seeing it from your own point of view. But you've got to think that you're a public servant. You are, because we're paying you, which makes you a public servant. Without us, you don't have a job. You don't get fame. You don't get the red carpet. And this is what you people, sorry about my friend, but this is what you people, fail to understand. Sorry about that. But anyway, right, we're trying to be professional. Show must go on, right? So I think this is what people in the entertainment industry don't matter. Now, what about Sansa? There was a bit when, was it the uncle stood up and he, volunteered to be king? And Sansa goes, sit down. I didn't like that mockery. And it was at that moment I'm thinking, is Sansa going to become the ruler of the Seven Kingdoms? And then this weird thing happens. Tyrion starts speaking and he names Brand, the broken, the broken bird or whatever he called him, right? And it was an amazing speech. And in a way, it's Tyrion who gets to choose who's king. That's funny, isn't it? I know they all say I, but he's pretty much putting someone forward that they can't say no to. And then Sansa pretty much says, the North should be independent. No one should rule the North. The North should rule itself. I think this is really funny and nobody sees the ironic self-servingness of her request there. And of course he agrees. She wants to make herself queen. She becomes queen. She becomes the most powerful person, in that district, in that kingdom, and in the North. And I just think it's hilarious how she makes it look like she's doing it for the people. But this is what all kind of people who take power are. So she was in line. Don't get me wrong. But I just think it's funny how she goes, the North should be independent. So you could be queen, love. So, yeah, Sansa's an interesting character. I think Sophie did a great job with her, she did. But I think as a character, I don't like her. I never liked her from the beginning, the way she was impressed with Cersei. Typical, teenage girl, impressed with Cersei, impressed with her pretty boy son. And because of all that, and because of that skin-deep mentality, look what happened. Look what happened to her family. Really, it's her fault. You know what I mean? So I'm not really a fan of Sansa, to be honest with you. As I say, Arya's story was great. Jon Snow, we should talk about Jon Snow. Of course we should talk about Jon Snow. But how do we like his ending? A lot of people are going to be really pissed off with how he ended up. I think, and I forgot what the place he ended up is, but it's the place where he was placed in the early days of the series. I think it's pretty interesting. In a lot of ways, right, just because you're a hero of the story doesn't mean you should become a king. Should Jon Snow be the king, or should he be the humble man going around saving innocents like he is at the end there? I think the way his story ended was actually pretty perfect. He slays the dragon, which is Daenerys, right? And then he gets to do what he doesn't want to be king. That's the point. He would have been a great king, but he doesn't want it. That's probably why people feel he should have been king. But the point is, I think it was interesting. Now, having Bran as king is interesting, and you do see him as a king. Now, this is a guy who kind of looks like there's nothing going on when there's a lot going on. He just doesn't say very much. So he's kind of a very disturbing character, Bran, because of his silence and because his responses are kind of very withheld. And I don't know if you kind of, when you meet people in real life who don't really say much, they really give me the creeps. And, you know, why do you think I call myself Big Mouth? Because I can't stop talking. And so I like the idea of Bran being king. I think it's a surprising. That's one thing. That's one thing that surprised me. I mean, Jon killing Daenerys, I think at that moment, it's going to happen. I thought as kind of Tyrion was trying to convince him, I thought that Jon was actually going to kill the guard and Tyrion was going to run away and escape. But that didn't happen. I think, oh. And then he has the whole conversation with her. I think that's a great kind of epilogue for her. I think Emilia Clarke basically does a great job with that. And they give her something a little bit before he kills her. He doesn't just come in and stab her because that would be stupid. Of course, elements of her dying, so him killing her so early in the episode, I suppose it's kind of an anticlimactic situation. So you know then that the rest of this episode isn't going to be kind of epic and battles and all that. There's no more enemies left. So what they do, and it's what really they did with Lord of the Rings, the final one, what they do, they give themselves a lot of time to wrap up everybody's stories. And it's actually really emotional and really well done. Obviously, the dragon burning the Iron Throne was freaking awesome. I loved it. I felt emotional watching that. No one should sit on an Iron Throne. You know, I personally want to live in a world with no rulers and where the humblest of people can make their own decisions for their lives. We don't live in that world, but hopefully one day we can. That's how I feel about it. But that was great, and that was a great statement. Another funny thing is when Sam stood up and said the people should decide who rules them, and then everybody starts laughing. And isn't it typical? You can imagine the Conservative Party, the House of Commons, having a good laugh about that as well. You know, they don't want to let people choose because they want to keep their power. So that was an interesting moment as well. But the burning of the Iron Throne was freaking awesome. I really liked that. As I say, all the characters, and what's that? The blonde woman's name? Oh, you know the one who slept with Jaime. I always forget her name, and I love her. I can't remember her name in real life either. But anyway, she's writing the kind of the names and the hero because he died with his queen or something. So that was kind of interesting. I suppose, as I said last week, it's interesting. I think the Game of Thrones we all enjoyed was with Ramsay Bolton, Joffrey, when it was sinister, people were plotting, shock deaths and all that. That was the Game of Thrones the whole world enjoyed. But ultimately, you have to get to an end of a story. It's like season 7 of Smallville when Lex and Lionel leave. It then becomes a different story. And really, Game of Thrones is a very similar thing. Once Ramsay goes and Joffrey goes, it becomes a different show. And you still got Cersei, but the story changes and it switches a lot. So, there's a lot less villains to kind of interest you and pique your attention. So I think when people say, from season 6 or 7, it wasn't as good anymore, I think that's why, because they're bookmarking their endings. And this is the problem with a popular series. Unfortunately, they have to end. They have to resolve things the best way that they can. And I think in a lot of ways, that's why people are mad. But I think mostly people are mad because Arya killed the Night King. Now, whether you agree or not, that if the Night King should have been killed by Arya or so early on, is up to you at the end of the day. I liked Arya killing the Night King. I didn't have a problem with it. I would have liked the Night King to be the final threat. Because if you think about it, what happens with Daenerys, Jon killing her, then you've got this kind of call to arms straight away with the Night King battle. So they can't arrest him, they can't kill him, they need him to go to the battle. It would have been an awesome, epic finale. But for some reason, they didn't want to do it. They wanted to, let's be honest about it. The kind of whole thing with the Night King battle, it was awesome. It was a great episode and they did a great job. And I think that's the thing. They made a decision, instead of that being in the finale, they wanted to give it a whole episode. And if you go back and watch that episode, it's a perfect episode. And as I say, Arya killing the Night King is perfect. So I think with this final season, you can pretty much roll a dice and say, well, I would have done this, I would have done that. We all would have done so many different things. But It's like Daenerys says to Jon Snow, they don't get to choose, we do. So, Bainhoff and Wise get to choose. And guess what? They actually directed this episode. I think they've never directed a Game of Thrones episode. I didn't even know they were directors. Now, you can tell, I think this was a good episode for them to direct because there wasn't as much action. Or I don't think there was any action, was there? So maybe that would have been difficult for them. Does this mean they can actually direct their Star Wars movies as well? I doubt it. I'm still worried about Rian Johnson directing that film while they write it. So that'll be interesting. But anyway, back to Game of Thrones. So in conclusion, basically, I think it's a really good, solid final season, as final seasons go. And I think if you like this final season, as I said on the top of the show, it's a great bookmark ending. But what did you think of Game of Thrones? As a whole, the final season, the series finale, did you like it? Did you hate it? Were you disappointed? I'm going to give the final season 7 out of 10. I'm going to give the finale an 8 out of 10. And I'm going to give the whole run of Game of Thrones pretty much a 9.5 out of 10. It's not. I've never read the books. It's not something I'm deeply passionate about. But it's a great show. It's probably the best made show with the best production values, with the biggest budget in TV history. But do I put it above shows like 24? No, because 24 meant a lot to me. Smallville meant a lot to me. There are shows, I think, that have broken more ground by spending less money and things like that. But Game of Thrones was an amazing and exciting time. And it actually hasn't finished because there's prequels, there's spin-offs, there's so much to come from this franchise. And no matter what people say right now, they'll be back for more.